I truly cannot believe what I'm seeing. What's happening in America? Did you ever think that you would see other nations' flags being waved by the majority of people standing in the People's House of Representatives here in the United States? Did you ever think that we would fund with money we don't have to other countries while we lay our whole border security and sovereignty down? Did you ever think that we would be so thankful for all the commitments, for all the people that served in the military to keep us free, to then spit on them basically by allowing the things that we've allowed happen? In history, we've seen hard times. And what happens is we need to see leaders rise up. I'm so scared that we have not gotten to that point because we don't know how to make leaders anymore. We have failed schools, we have failed education, failed colleges, we have failed homes, we have a failed economy, and we have literally, quote unquote, representatives that literally did not do the will of the people. Are we living in a free nation? Are we living in hard times? And are we going to see a leader actually stand up? Let's talk about it. Today's video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here. It's a cold, dreary morning. I don't know where this weather came from in South Mississippi. Before we start, if you are new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. That does help us stay in the algorithms, and it also helps us push our message across this platform. And our goal is to hopefully we spread together, we talk amongst ourselves, and we build a wiser, more common sense approach to the world that we live in. Because now, more than ever, we're needing voices. We need conservative voices talking about freedoms, talking about leadership and what it truly means. Also tomorrow, remember, we have a video dealing with the giveaway, dealing with Opus. It's going to be a sales video based on us talking a little bit more about the giveaway and getting entered in that. So be looking for that. Watch that video so you can make sure you're entered to get one of those giveaways, thousands of dollars worth of giveaways when it comes to battery banks and alternative energy for preparedness. Now let's jump into today's video, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a little perturbed, and sadly I don't know if we have enough true support of good leaders. I'm gonna read this Twitter account from yesterday. It says, so let's just recap a little bit. The US approved $61 billion to Ukraine. In that bill yesterday, $0 went to Americans' homeland, meaning the sovereignty, the protection of our borders. Now we're breaking this bill down. Now that's one thing these crazy Republicans and these crazy Democrats are doing, is they're breaking these bills down to where you're voting simply on single task things. Problem is, the Republicans did not hold up to their end of the bargain and saying they're going to vote on the border first. They just smashed that. Shows, again, like we talked yesterday, how corrupt the leadership is and how corrupt this whole political atmosphere is in Washington. $61 billion went to Ukraine. After the vote, they cheered and waved Ukrainian flags and chanted "Ukraine, Ukraine" in our People's House of Representatives. Neither party has ever worked together to pass a bill to help Americans then euphorically wave U.S. flags. Now, I said this yesterday because it was like almost 100% of the Democrats in support and a big majority of Republicans, and then they waved the Ukrainian flag. I bet more than anything you would not catch those, especially the Democrats and some of the rhinos, being that happy to wave an American flag. They're supposed to represent you, the People's House, the people of the United States, and I bet more than anything you could not get those same people that were overly joyed dancing in our house while our families are starving, while our families are going through inflation, while our borders are unsecure, waving a foreign country's flag that's not even literally an ally of ours in our People's House. I bet you could not get them to wave a U.S. flag that way. This Twitter post from Cant kept going. It says, afterward, both parties ran a social media to mock tax-paying U.S. citizens, wanting our money to be spent here. They called tax-paying U.S. citizens, the people that they're taking the money from, who don't want to fund the foreign war around the globe, puppets of Russia, and every name in the book, such as traitors and trash. There was another guy that posted, said, this is the nail in the coffin of MAGA. Die. Do you hear that? Where have we gone? We have lost all sense of morality. We've lost all sense of values in this country. This is the people's house. Now, one thing is to have a president who is the opposition. You know, he's elected, so therefore he's not going to get along with one party or the other. But this is the majority of what we consider the representation of the country. As I said in the intro, 70% of people wants a border wall. 70% of people said they would rather not see funding anywhere else yet. And even some of the liberals and leftists say, yet, I mean, look, they're for funding Ukraine, but they were saying, look, we need to kind of talk about our security here. 70% of people said they would rather see our security here first and then talk about the world. And I've told you yesterday, I don't mind having money go to some of these countries, but it better be a loan. It better be a place where we can benefit and we can make money back. Because us writing a blank check to these people who really don't like us, who is actually persecuting the Christian church, Ukraine is persecuting the church. Ukraine is pushing ladies and children to fight in their wars. They're losing generations. And what we're doing is when we write this check, we're actually seeing more people die. We're putting the nail in the coffin of all those kids and all those women because they don't have enough men to fight anymore. And then you hear that we're the bad guy. Every major leader, McConnell, Johnson, Pence, all of these people came out and they're just praising the fact that we're giving money to Ukraine. I said this yesterday in the video. I truly do not know what kind of blackmail or what kind of money laundering scheme that these politicians have in Washington, because it must be unbelievable for them to completely and utterly have no spine to stand up and do what they're supposed to do. It is so sad. Weak men make a catastrophic scenario, and that's exactly what we're seeing. A weak president, weak Congress on both sides are they're literally making the demise of America happen. You know, they say that a lot of times intellectual people who see things that are coming down the pipe, preparedness, they talk about preppers all the time. We almost see something that's coming within the decade, and we're just a little bit early. Well, I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the demise of America all because we're literally destroying our own economy in order to help people who don't really like us, who is actually not being a free country in itself. And all the while, we're the ones funding it while we're allowing our country to collapse. Have you seen the cities lately? They're warning people not to even, in these cities, some of these cities like Memphis, San Francisco, Los Angeles, there were several on the list. I think Philadelphia is one. They were saying, look, lunch breaks, you may want to take somebody with you. You may want to eat inside. You may not want a picnic. You may not want to walk the streets because you're vulnerable. Do you know, if you cross over, if you look at Union Station in Washington, they said that there's actually, that's how a lot of the congressmen and politicians and workers in the swamp get to Washington. And they said they have to literally step over people that are doing drugs, people that are dying right there, people that are ODing right there to get to their offices. But we can give $61 billion to Ukraine. We can pass $100 billion bills with no money, and we can do it to a point where it causes more problems for America. Now, let's talk for a second. How do we fix this? First of all, we need term limits. You're not going to get those. We need people who stand up, and we need a change in Washington. I've heard that. Mike Lee just said that yesterday. Oh, we need a clean house. Talking about it's great, Mike. Problem is nobody's going to do it. Nobody's going to stand up to the power. Nobody can stand up to this. You need to get people out of D.C. If you have a representative of your district, of the state, they should be at their home districts and states way more than they're in Washington. They shouldn't be in Washington all the time. It's amazing we have technology and we can't seem to zoom in and talk on iPads and computers, because you know what? You put these people in the district, they're going to hear from their constituents, and actually then they may have to represent them and be truly the hands and feet of the people that they're supposed to be representing, and not standing up for special interests in Washington. So we need term limits. We need them out of Washington more. And then we also need true leaders. So when I hear people say we need a clean house, I look at Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, even Mike Lee. Some of those guys are great guys. But now it takes them standing up with the primaried candidate. Let's primary these guys. And not only primary, you need to go and you need to actually go and be boots on the ground and help these opposition leaders and these opposition people who want to see change in Washington win their elections. Did you know Republicans, like 25% of the Republicans vote in primaries? So the most conservative states like Mississippi, like Texas, like the Dakotas, we elect some of the most establishment Republicans instead of true conservative firebrands because we think we're safe and it's going to be okay. And most of these guys like Cornyn, Crenshaw, even in my state, people like Wicker, they're not doing anything other than just literally not representing us. But we won't primary them, and we allow them to go unopposed, and these people who say they want a clean house, they're actually not standing up to help someone get primaried and actually win to get good leaders in Washington. We never change the guard like we should. So there's no checks and balances for these guys who's been in there and career politicians for 30 and 40 and 50 years. That's why they're coming out as multimillionaires. And when you see people like Pence, Johnson, all these guys who literally flip-flop, they flip-flop because there's something on them, either blackmail or money. That's all it is. You can't just change your whole core principles just because you slept different last night on a certain mattress. You change your opinion because there's either money or blackmail. Simple as that. Well, Colby, what do? You got to break out the system. You have got to change the way you look at America. You cannot keep putting your kids in public school systems and expect them to be morally obligated children and them be more grounded in actually what truth is. Because they're getting taught by the same people that we're trying to say that are leading us wrong. So you have to start teaching your own children and get them out of the public school system. Colleges, guess what? Department of Education is talking about shutting down the biggest Christian college in America. And they're bringing up all these charges and all this stuff. And what they're going to do is do just like Trump. Trump is over almost $1 billion worth of bills and attorney fees and lawsuits. You know what they're going to do? They're going to do the same things to Christian education and to conservatives. They're going to keep on ringing up bills, fines, regulation to a point where people like them have to shut down. So can this college stand? I don't know. But if they just weed out the conservative colleges, the Christian colleges, if they weed out private education and they make it all about public education, then guess what? They're indoctrinating your children to grow up and be exactly like they are. You wonder why we have generations that are failing and they're not raising good, hardworking men, skilled laborers, and people who want to change the world? It's because they've been taught not to do that. So we have to break out of that system. If you're working for some of these jobs and all you do is you work all the time and you're not able to raise your children and have principles and be in a house of faith on Sunday, and when you make excuses day in and day out and say, well, it's just not my fight. I would love to see new leadership. It's just not me. I'm going to let them handle it. Then you are sitting on the sidelines and you cannot say anything about what's actually happening. You can talk, we can speak, but we've got to learn to do more than that. So we have to break out of the system. You know what? If you become more independent, people look at us as crazy. But to be honest with you, we're independent. We raise our own food. We raise our own hay. We try to eat off our farm. We raise our children in homeschool. We try to build this homestead up. It doesn't take millions of dollars to do that. You can do that on 1 acre to 5 acres. I know people that are raising their children at home on a single income, just like we are, and they don't have some big high-paying job. They just made the sacrifices because they realize their children are worth it. The only way that we're going to have true skilled laborers, morally obligated people, and people who have values again is we have to start instilling that into the younger generations. I'll be honest with you, our politicians, they're a lost hope. You're not going to change them. You are not going to change them. There's not going to be some great awakening. I think we're way past that. I wish that God would make a great awakening happening, but it's not. So therefore, if that doesn't happen, those politicians are almost a lost cause. So now you have to learn to find ways to get them out of there, and that means not only talk about it, but support the opposition candidate. There was people that ran against ours here, the establishment guys. 2 or 3 of them didn't even get opposed. They were unopposed on both sides. And then the other 2 had no traction. They had no money, no traction, and no one supported them. So all these people in Washington that says they want to get the establishment guys out, they didn't support the opposition. I voted for the opposition here in Mississippi. I tried to do as much as I can, but without people standing up to the establishment, we're going to keep seeing a swamp, a dirty, nasty swamp in Washington, D.C., where your house, the people's house, are waving Ukrainian flags or some opposition flag and not Americans. You think about it. There's been leaders of the Democratic Party, the squad, they're actually not even using American flags or Ukrainian flags. They're doing Palestinian flags. They're doing flags that support things that are not even, I mean, that are actually against us. They're actually at war with some of our allies. So how does that make sense? That's almost an oxymoron. We're supporting Ukraine on one side, but then we're supporting the opposition on the other side. What that means is we're funding all the sides, and ultimately, Congress is getting rich, Washington is getting rich, and the Americans are the ones that are suffering each and every day. So guys, we have to change the system. What that means is, you know, you hear people, and I hate to use trendy words because I think that sometimes we get caught up in trendy words, but you have to quote unquote break out of the matrix. Well, that's true. You can't keep doing the same thing. You know, there's two things I want you to think about. You know, in the Bible it says, bad company corrupts good morals. The more we allow people to go to Washington, the more they will be corrupted, no matter how strong they are. This is an old cliche, old, you know, team building motivation here, but you know good and well, if I'm on a stool and I'm trying to pull somebody up to the stool, it's a whole lot harder than them pulling me off the stool. It's the same thing. Bad company corrupts good morals. If we put one great guy up there with 400 bad guys up there, 400 bad guys are going to corrupt the one good guy. And it happens time and time again. I think a lot of these people go up to Washington to quote unquote change the world. And ultimately they get up there, they get discouraged, there's not enough of them up there, and then you see the weakened man happen. What conservatives need to do is they need to teach their children not to worry about public school and college all the time. Try to get skilled labor and jobs, because guess what? That means you're needed. Try to learn how to be prepared and learn how to gather and hunt your own food. Learn how to raise your own food. Learn how to raise livestock, because you're going to be more valuable to you and your family and your community than anyone who has a degree in liberal arts and has spent $150,000 to go to that college. You're just going to be indoctrinated and basically controlled by the government. Because remember that loan you got from the government? It's your college loan, your student loan. Well, you're at the beck and call of the government because you're wanting them to all of a sudden forgive it, but until then, you've got to keep paying it. So therefore, you're indoctrinated and you're also a slave to the lender. There's another wise statement. I don't know who said it. I think Ziegler may have said it, but he said, if we want to be like somebody and emulate somebody, then we have to put ourselves around those people. If I want to be a successful salesman, I want to be a successful businessman, or I want to be a successful farmer, I'm going to make sure I'm going to put myself around people who have that knowledge and understanding and know. If I want to be wealthy or rich, I can't learn that from somebody impoverished. If I want to learn how to get out of debt, I got to learn it from people who are out of debt. I can't learn it from people who teach me how to be out of debt, but they're in piles of debt themselves. So we have to surround ourselves with people who believe like us, like-minded people. So the people you go to church with, the people that's in your community, the people that you say, okay, I want this homesteading thing, I want this homeschooling thing. You have to put yourself around people who believe like you, so therefore you can build each other up. A lot of these politicians, the reason they're not strong is they're not putting themselves in good situations, and they're not sticking together, and they're all of a sudden getting like a sheep in the middle of 40,000 wolves, and they're trying to make it, and they're not going to do it. So then we see failed leadership. If we want to see change, we have to get out of the system. We have to break away from what they're teaching us and start being more independent, more sustainable. And when we say we want better leaders, we have to do something about it other than just saying, well, we'll just support him. Well, we're not going to worry about the primary. He's going to lose anyway. We have to do more. Because until then, instead of seeing an American flag waving in the people's house, you're going to see a foreign government waving something in our house. And they're taking your money. They're taking your money to give to that country. All the while, your country's left completely vulnerable. And that's what we're seeing. So to recap, we got to change. We can't change Washington. I don't even think Trump can. I hope Trump can get in, but you know the truth? They're not going to do a massive deportation. Republicans don't have the spine to even pass a bill to get the wall built. You think they're going to mass deport people? No, it's going to look bad on them. They can't even stand up for abortion rights. They're starting to back off that. They're scared to death. We have weak leadership on the Republican side. Until we change leaderships on the Republican side, you'll never change America. Until we have better homes, you'll never send better leaders. Until you have better homes raising better kids, you'll never have a new generation growing up to be stronger. It all starts back with our families and our communities, and we have to break away from the status quo. Let me know your thoughts. Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I randy this morning? The bottom line is I think I'm making more of these opinionated videos because I want people to realize the time is now. If we don't do something about this, I believe we're going to see very hard times. And I think we're not going to even be ready for that. I don't know if it's a war on our soil. I don't know if it's the Great Depression. I don't know if it's economic chaos. I don't know what it is. But Americans are not built and ready for anything like that because we've built a soft and weak generation. And that scares me because I have children. I have 6 kids that I'm trying to raise. I have a family that we're trying to raise. And I want to see them thrive and I want to see better lives for them. Let me know your thoughts. God bless. Happy homesteading.